Bihari. Gopi Janabalabha Giridharidhari. Gopi Janabalabha Giridharidhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jairadha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janabalabha Giridharidhari. Jaya Gopi Janabalabha Giridharidhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jairadha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janabalabha Giridharidhari. Jaya Gopi Janabalabha Giridharidhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jairadha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Balabha Giridvaritari Jaya Gopi Jana Balabha Giridvaritari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jairadha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jairadha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnu Bham Sabarajikacharya Stote Sisimade Si Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnu Bham Sabarajikacharya Stote Sisimade Bhakti Siddhanta Sasi Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Go Premanandi. Om Gana Timidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. During the kirtan, I was noting how easy it is to chant Hare Krishna in this place, because of the dynamics of Lord Chaitanya's sankirtan movement. The chanting of Hare Krishna becomes easier and easier, sweeter and sweeter. As Kaviraj Goswami explains in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the more the Panchatattva chanted and danced, the easier it is to taste love of Krishna. The whole world becomes more and more flooded the more the chanting and dancing goes on. So I was remarking during the kirtan how easy it is just to go on chanting Hare Krishna continuously here. That is the most privileged status in life. When you start to notice you're in an environment where an inexhaustible flow of Krishna kirtan envelops you. By the sacrifice of the devotees, Yagyaya sankirtana praya yajantahi sumedisa. By that sacrifice of congregational chanting, spreading Krishna's glories. By that authorized yajna. Ease in accessing Krishna is created and increased. Indeed, as you know, the place becomes a pilgrimage site, a tirtha. The chanting of Hare Krishna, the glorification of Krishna is so powerful that the effects linger even after the chanters have departed from a place. And what to speak of a location like this, in which all kinds of glorification of Krishna constantly emanate, radiate. So that was my first observation in sitting down here, to speak to those of you who are physically present in this room, as well as to speak to those of you who are in cyberspace. We acknowledge your presence, and we seek your favors upon us. What should I speak of tonight, I thought. Bhagavad-gita is on the table. Many of us have read Bhagavad-gita several times. Newer persons have read it at least once. Fledgling bhakti yogis are making their way through Bhagavad-gita. Will we ever grow beyond Bhagavad-gita? I remember I was in Johannesburg, South Africa, staying at the home of one devotee named Govardhan Das, and Jayadvaita Maharaj was there. And I saw him in the morning doing something that I had seen when I used to live in the same BBT apartment as him. How many years ago? Almost 40 years ago at that time, on Watsika Avenue in Los Angeles. Every morning he would recite the verses, Sanskrit and English, of Bhagavad-gita. And so then, almost 40 years later, I saw him doing the same thing. So I asked him, jokingly, haven't you progressed yet beyond Bhagavad-gita? And then when I am staying at Govardhan Ashram, Bhaktivedanta Ashram, when Vaisheshika Prabhu is there and Keshava Bharati Maharaj, and there's the daily readings going on, they don't pass over Bhagavad Gita. So it makes you wonder, how deep and profound is Bhagavad Gita? Actually, Krishna confirms in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right at the beginning, 4th chapter, text 3, Saevayam Mayataja Yoga Prokta Puratanaha Bhakto Sime Sakacheti Rahasyam Yetarutamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, there are 2 classes of men, namely the devotee and the demon. The Lord selected Arjuna as the recipient of this great science owing to his being a devotee of the Lord. But for the demon, it is not possible to understand this great mysterious science. There are a number of editions of this great book of knowledge. Some of them have commentaries by the devotees, and some of them have commentaries by the demons. Academics love this. Commentation by the devotees is real, whereas that of the demons is useless. Arjuna accepts Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Gita following in the footsteps of Arjuna is real devotional service to the cause of this great science. The demoniac, however, do not accept Lord Krishna as he is. Instead, they concoct something about Krishna and mislead general readers in the path of Krishna's instructions. Here is a warning about such misleading paths. One should try to follow the disciplic succession from Arjuna and thus be benefited by this great science of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Do you ever wonder what makes Srila Prabhupada so confident that this is it? And he just declares unilaterally, authoritatively, decisively, there are 2 classes of men, divine and demoniac. There are 2 different types of commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, that by the devotees, that by the demons. To be so decisive, to be so definitive, is not much appreciated in all sectors, in all quarters. There's this notion that genuine spiritual knowledge is actually very vague, cloud-like. And as soon as you try to cut the pie in any way, as soon as you make some kind of judgment or distinction, ooh, that's not spiritual. Genuine spirituality, the idea is, should be open to everything, accepting of everything. Of course, these notions are based on Mayavadi philosophy from India, that actually there are no distinctions, everything is pure oneness, Kevala Dvaita. What gives Srila Prabhupada such vision to speak like this? Some people wonder, is it religious fanaticism? Or is it, as we've come to know it, the product of extraordinary spiritual realization. The gift of someone who's actually seeing what he's talking about. That thought ever come over you? That the parampara is transmitting what can actually be seen and experienced. You'll find in the Western world, and it's happening in India more and more, that people are wary and leery of anything resembling religious belief. The authoritativeness, the certainty of spiritual proclamations offends some people or turns them off. They imagine that something spiritual is very vague. One famous Western author back in the 90s, he described or characterized the situation very nicely. He said, the soul doesn't want answers. The soul just wants questions. Open-ended questions that continue on and on. That is the soul. What do you think? The soul doesn't want answers. The soul just wants questions and more questions, open-ended. That is real spirituality. In other words, if something sounds definitive, as Bhagavad-gita does sound, if something has any semblance of certainty, how can it be for real? So many people are saying they're right. So many people are saying they know. Of course, the devotee of Krishna understands that it's true. So many people say that they know, although they don't. But someone does know. And our approach to Bhagavad-gita is based on either the supposition, the possibility that someone knows, or the complete surety that someone knows. It's very interesting. In the introduction to Bhagavad-gita, Srila Prabhupada writes that at least theoretically accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as you turn the pages. And that is submissiveness. Just that hypothetical acceptance. Hypothetical acceptance means like hypothesis. All right, I'll temporarily go along with the presentation of this book that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then when I get to the end of the book, I'll see how things work out. That is considered submissiveness. So it's not that Bhagavad-gita is demanding that you have to artificially declare yourself to be certain. Otherwise, you're irreligious, you're an offender. No. Submissiveness begins with, let me go along with this presentation, see how it all works out. I'll hold my doubts in abeyance and see what happens when we get to the end. So this is how I present Bhagavad-gita to a Western audience. Because so many persons, and you'll find it happening more and more in India too. Give India another 10 years and you'll see prevalent the same misconceptions that have saturated the West. Certainty. How can anyone know for sure? To establish yourself, to present yourself as knowing for sure means you must be puffed up. Because no one who's actually spiritual would have the arrogance to present themselves as knowing for real what's going on. It's not possible that anyone actually knows. We know that for a fact. I always catch people on that one. You know, the classic trap they set for themselves. No one really knows. Really? You know that? If no one really knows, then please be quiet. So what I'm trying to convey to you tonight, whether you're sitting here or at home, what I'm trying to convey to you tonight is the reality of people's fear of certainty and definitiveness and authoritativeness. That fear is setting in more and more as people become more and more splayed out and unable to concentrate. You know, in the second chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Bahu shaka hinantascha buddhayo vyavasayana vyavasyapmika buddhya ekeha gurunandana. Those who are on this path of bhakti are resolute in purpose, their aim is one. But the intelligence of the others is many-branched. How many-branched and unfocused that intelligence and determination has become? Just see today how people are unable to concentrate. And because people are less and less able to concentrate and focus, therefore, presentations that have no focus and no definitiveness seem to be the normal thing. This reality leads us to the question, is Bhagavad-gita still viable? Is it still relevant? Can it still get the job done? In an age when people are not fond of certainty. And they have this notion that anything spiritual must be vague and cloudy. It's always fun to collect people's experiences of what happened when they first encountered Bhagavad-gita. Do you do that here? It's always interesting, isn't it? It's also quite baffling sometimes. There seems to be no rhyme or reason. There seems to be no, formula. Some people just get it right away. Others, they just can't seem to enter into Bhagavad-gita. Maybe not at all. Maybe after some time only. I began to think about this, reading and rereading Prabhupada's preface and introduction. Why, you think, after 44 years of practicing bhakti, that I'm rereading the preface and introduction to Bhagavad-gita? Because the Supreme Absolute Truth is so unlimitedly attractive that even the beginning, Srila Prabhupada's beginning, his overture to Bhagavad-gita is so unlimitedly attractive. The way he sets the stage, explaining why he wrote it, what the need is for such a rendition of Bhagavad-gita. Reading that refocused me, you know. It It gives the mission statement. So in the beginning, before chapter 1 begins, Srila Prabhupada explains that Bhagavad-gita is actually a great mystery. And we encounter the same point in this verse. But for the demon, it is not possible to understand this great mysterious science. Now, what does that mean? Generally, we think mystery or mysterious means vague and undefined. But that's not the usage of mystery or mysterious that we find here. Just like the word mystical. Mystical has such a vague connotation when you hear the word mystical. That one Srila Prabhupada commented when a disciple presented that word to him. He said, mystical means you don't know. Sounds very judgmental, doesn't it? Mystical means you don't know. If you know what something is, you say it. It's like someone who says, God cannot be defined, he cannot be explained, he cannot be thought about. And Srila Prabhupada would simply said, all that simply means is you don't know. Of course, it is true. God cannot be defined materially. But if he himself defines himself, how can you reject that? And if those for whom he's empowered to know him, how can you reject what they say? So this is the bhakti advantage. And we should appreciate the inconceivably deep significance of the bhakti advantage. Hearing about the Supreme Absolute Truth from the Supreme Absolute Truth himself, and also hearing about the Supreme Absolute Truth from those who know the Supreme Absolute Truth. Yes, there are other religious scriptures, but where else do we find such comprehensive spiritual knowledge, such in-depth spiritual knowledge? This is the super excellence of Bhagavad-gita. The highest mysticism is to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is called Yogeshwar, the master of all mystic power. Sometimes, especially because it provides a contemporary angle, I say that Yogeshwar means the master of all yoga power. And if it's a Western audience, they say, wow, the master of all yoga power. Sometimes Krishna is known as Yogeshvareshvara, the master of the masters of yoga power. And then I explain, what is yoga power? Because generally they think yoga power means the ability to sit in a lotus position for 2 hours, or the ability to do a handstand, or some intricate back bend. It's yoga power. But I say no. Every species of life has some yoga power. How is that? The bird's ability to fly, think about it, is yoga power. The worm's ability to tunnel through the soil while eating the soil, that's yoga power. You can't do that. The fish's ability to breathe underwater, there's yoga power. In other words, yoga doesn't simply mean physical postures. The full definition means some kind of art or ability to connect with something. And of course, the topmost yoga is to connect with Krishna. But even in nature, you see creatures having some kind of yoga power in terms of being able to connect with some kind of achievement or feat, some accomplishment. Then consider that Krishna, the Supreme Absolute Truth, is the source of all yoga power. That means the source of all expertise, ability. That is real mysticism. Mysterious. How can Bhagavad-gita be a mystery? A great mystery. It's a book. It's print on the page. What's the problem? Haven't you noticed, though, that some people can access Bhagavad-gita easily, some only after some time, and some never at all? There's something else going on about this book. It's not about not being able, or it's not about debating the content so much. Some people just can't get into it, and others get into it very easily. When I was a young child studying the Bible at Sunday school, we would sometimes, behind the back of the Sunday school teacher, because we wanted to, the young guys wanted to have some fun in the Sunday school class. So we just whispered to each other a famous jingle or a famous mantra, so to speak, about the Bible and studying it and reading it. We both read the same book day and night. I read the black and you read the white. Meaning, there's so many interpretations possible. There's one famous book of the Bible, New Testament, the last book, Revelations. I don't think you know much about it. And it's got many very mysterious sounding things there. My middle brother, who's a deacon, a staff member in a Christian church, he told me this book of the Bible, Revelations, he says, it's LSD for Christians. They can just trip out on it. It means so many things. So is Bhagavad-gita that kind of mystery? No. By saying Bhagavad-gita is a great mystery, it means that you need a right attitude to enter into it. It's not all about rational faculties, rational cognition. So many of you are highly educated engineers, IT persons, accountants. Is it really so that this book is beyond your cognitive faculties? You don't really accept that, do you? You study all kinds of IT manuals. You study all kinds of science. And yet, Bhagavad-gita is a great mystery. I have seen how some persons who are very materially intelligent, they just can't access this book. It just... I've seen persons who are very simple from the worldly point of view, and they just turn page after page in delight. That's what it means that Bhagavad Gita is a great mystery. You have to have sanction from Krishna in the heart. You can't overpower Bhagavad Gita with your critical intelligence. It eludes you. Nevertheless, even a cursory or slightest contact with a genuine Bhagavad Gita benefits you immeasurably. I remember the first time I tried to read Bhagavad Gita. I've explained before probably that I was, I think, in my third year at Yale University, and I wanted to take a course in Hinduism in my quest to find the solution to all humanity's problems. So I attended a course. I signed up for a course that met at 8 o'clock in the morning, which was very early. I and my fellow students would never take a course before 11 a.m. Because our normal schedule was to go to sleep at 3 a.m., get up at 10:30 a.m., throw on our clothes, and go to 11 o'clock class. But for Hinduism, I was going to make the supreme sacrifice. I was going to go to this 8 o'clock class taught by a world-famous professor, still world-famous, and so I did. And I sat in his first class, and he gave an outline of the course. We're going to be studying the Upanishads, we're going to be studying the Rig Veda, we'll be studying Bhagavad Gita. Tonight's assignment, your first assignment is to read this section, this particular section of the Upanishads, and write an essay what you think it means. So what was my response? He's just basically telling me that I should speculate. I don't need to come to class at 8 o'clock in the morning for someone to tell me to speculate. I can do that at 2 a.m. with my friends. So I said, forget this course, I'm dropping it. It's just going to be a waste of time. What I will do, though, I'll go to the university bookshop and I'll purchase all the books on the reading list for the course. I'll study on my own. So I did that. And I purchased the books. Some of them were like dry academic textbooks called Yoga, Immortality, and Freedom. The title sounds, interesting, but when you open it up, it's just very dry academic treatise. And then there was this version of Bhagavad Gita. So I flipped through the Bhagavad Gita, this version. There are verses in the front, commentary in the back. And I looked at the commentary, and the scholar was saying that Krishna is a concept meant to satisfy both the sentimentalists and the intellectuals. Suddenly, I can understand now, super soul took over. I just took the book and I threw it against the wall. I knew anything about Krishna. But it just, something took over me like, this is bogus. I just took it, threw it against the wall. And then, because obviously I could not recognize super soul, but I was filtering everything through my conditioned intelligence. I responded in the way typical of students of my day. At that time, most students were political radicals. The Vietnam War was going on. The students were anti-establishment, anti-capitalism, anti-this, anti-that, anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism. So as I threw the book against the wall, I I said to myself about this professor, who, because he was British, who had commentated on Bhagavad Gita and made that statement about Krishna being a concept. I said, just see this British colonizer ruining the native people of India's book. Just see this imperialist, this oppressor. I vow one day I'm going to find a real version of this book. So, I think it wasn't until maybe a year and a half later that I encountered Prabhupada's reduced version of Bhagavad Gita. Before the full version was published, the publisher had reduced it. The little blue Gita. So why is it that I didn't react negatively when I read that Bhagavad Gita? And I'm sure in your outreach, in your distribution, you see persons that you never thought would so easily enter into the subject matter. They just dive in and swim, yet others, they may be very intelligent. It's like suddenly they can't read, you know? And you wonder, what's the problem here? This is a great mystery. You're dealing with the literary presence of Krishna. And Krishna is independent. He can decide who can approach him and who cannot. Now, of course, the devotee is said to be more merciful than Krishna. Therefore, if a devotee wants, Krishna can make himself available to someone who is attempting to read Bhagavad Gita, because some devotee is compassionately involved in the situation. This is also a mystery. How ordinarily Krishna would not reveal himself as Bhagavad Gita, but because some devotee wants that people be Krishna conscious, Krishna says, all right, the devotee wants, therefore I'll grant access to Bhagavad Gita. This is very mysterious. This is what makes outreach, distributing Lord Chaitanya's glories, so fascinating. You see all these amazing things. And that gives you deeper spiritual realization, deeper spiritual experience. So again, let's review some apparently very basic facts, yet these facts have unlimited depth. Arjuna is demonstrating the proper way to receive Bhagavad Gita. I was reading that this morning on the plane and trying to fathom the depths of this point. What is Arjuna's position in receiving Bhagavad Gita? What is his attitude? What is he demonstrating to us? He's demonstrating to us that we need to take up a certain position. He's demonstrating to us we need to have a certain attitude. And then we can actually enter into the meaning of Bhagavad Gita. This proper attitude, taking up this position, may take a long time to happen. Krishna is independent, or it may happen very quickly. Nevertheless, a devotee is someone, a bhakta is someone who's dedicated to engaging the senses in Krishna's service, knowing that when Krishna wants to, he will reveal himself as he is. We don't hold the time schedule up to Krishna. We simply engage in Krishna's service, and when Krishna wants, to make himself more known to us, he will. That is personalism. And bhakti is a very mysterious, personal, applied technology. So think about how Arjuna is receiving Bhagavad-gita. This is what we want to emulate, especially since Krishna is saying that Bhakto si me sakacheti rahasyam hyetarutamam. Because you're my devotee and my friend. Two things. Being friendly with Krishna means we accept his mission. The mission of Krishna speaking Bhagavad-gita is for establishing who he really is and how we can be in connection with him. Obviously, Bhagavad-gita is not simply a conversation between two ordinary persons. It's indicating that to understand it, we need to have the proper state of consciousness. I've often explained, you may remember, that there's a difference between the Western mode of acquiring knowledge and the bhakti mode. Of course, the bhakti mode is not simply Eastern. It is actually the true universal method for acquiring knowledge. The method for acquiring knowledge that's prevalent in the Western world, and of course, it's dominating other parts of the world too. That method is that everything depends on the keenness of your intellect, the sharpness of your IQ. Your cognitive faculties, your rational abilities, your empirical investigative talent. What you understand, what you can understand, has nothing to do with your behavior. So, Western knowledge acquiring has no room for factors like the purity of your consciousness. Especially since exactly what is consciousness is so highly debated in the Western world. Many scientists even say consciousness doesn't exist. The brain is tricking you to think that there is a self, that there's a conscious self. You can behave however you like. But what determines whether you can understand something? It is your cognitive faculties. But that's not what Bhagavad-gita is teaching. Bhagavad-gita is teaching that knowledge is state-specific. According to your state of consciousness, that determines what you can understand. If your consciousness is pure, it understands more. If it's not pure, it understands less or nothing at all. According to your specific state of consciousness, that allows you or grants you certain access. So think about it. It's completely different. And this is what Krishna is saying when he points out, Arjuna, bhakto si me sakacheti. Because you have the right state of consciousness, you can understand Rahasyam hyetarutamam, this great transcendental mystery. You have the right attitude. Your consciousness is properly situated. Therefore, I'm speaking it to you. This is the reason why I'm teaching you. Not because of your IQ or your cognitive or material research capabilities, but because you have the right state of consciousness. So much so that I can say, you're my devotee and my friend. Therefore, I'm going to talk to you. This is the reality of Bhagavad-gita that's very hard for those with a materialistic mindset to accept. And I'll tell you, it's even hard for those who are superficially religious to accept. In India, you'll find so many persons, oh yes, Bhagavad Gita, yes, yes. As one man told me, Swami, I have Bhagavad Gita. It's on my shelf. Every Sunday, I go to that bookshelf, and first I do akshman. I purify my hand with water, and then I touch the book, and then that's enough. I know Krishna. So the assumption is that because I'm religious as ordinarily known, I'll understand. In fact, I don't even have to read the book because I am a religious person. Therefore, whatever is there in Bhagavad Gita, I actually already know it. You might have heard from book distributors in the early days of ISKCON, the early 70s. This is before the big immigration boom started coming from India, before the U.S. changed its immigration laws to scoop up all the talent in India. But back in 1972, 73, there weren't that many Indians in the USA. So, when we young guys were on sankirtana, as soon as we see someone from India walking on the street, immediately we thought, oh, there's a sale. We'd run up to the person and show up Bhagavad Gita. And more often than not, the response would be, I am knowing Krishna. And as young devotees, I mean, we're only in our early 20s now, we were baffled. I mean, you're from India? This is Bhagavad Gita. Why are you not taking? No, I know Krishna. I know. What I did was, as a young devotee, 1973, I memorized a verse by Lord Brahma. We didn't have the 10th canto back then, but the verse is in English in the Krishna book, where Lord Brahma says, if anyone says, I know everything about Krishna, let them talk. In other words, they don't know what they're talking about. As far as I'm concerned, everything about Krishna is beyond my mind, body, and words. So I would protect myself with that verse. So again, what is it about Bhagavad Gita that seems to make it irresistible to material analysis? So many persons have a difficulty with Bhagavad Gita, and so many persons, it's like skating on ice. It's, wow, yeah, it's all natural. I've watched this. For example, in New Zealand, it's rated by the UN as being the most female power-centric country in the world. So I've watched young women read Bhagavad Gita, and you're just waiting for when they hit those parts of the purports where it talks about things that don't harmonize with social conceptions these days. You know those parts. In the Mano Samhita, it is stated, in terms of how women are to be treated. And so I just watch, and I see so many times these young ladies, they just sail right past it. And then every once in a while I see someone who will hit those spots, and they'll come and ask questions. what does this mean? And why is it said like that? So I see the whole pageantry. I see the whole show. Some persons just sail right through for some mysterious reason. Others hit like a speed bump. Others hit a brick wall. And there's really no rhyme or reason to it. I was speaking in two places the past week, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, as well as USC, University of Southern California. And to my surprise, in both places, persons who I had been cultivating, American students who had studied abroad in New Zealand, I met up with them at these events, especially at University of Southern California. The student who came to the event had no idea that I was a speaker, and so she just showed up. Oh, it's a bhakti event? Yeah, I was introduced to bhakti in New Zealand. Well, let me check it out. And then she was shocked. She kept saying to me over and over again, this is not a coincidence. This is not a coincidence. So she told me she's reading Bhagavad-gita. So, here it comes. Chapter 2, and it is said in Manu Samhita, women should never be given independence. But no, she said, I'm on chapter 7. I said, oh, you're on chapter 7, huh? I said, yes, I'm on chapter 7. Everything's great. And, she's like a 21-year-old lady, savvy. She's from New York City and, going to school in California. And, yeah, no problem. So I think we have to get used to the fact that indeed Bhagavad-gita is a great mystery. And I mentioned to my Shesha Guru many times that New Zealand, as I said, is rated by the UN as #1 female power country in the world. But don't have such a problem with those sections. First of all, at our centers, the guests can look around and see it's actually the ladies that control everything. And secondly, some or other, they just do, just like the atmosphere you have here is so contagious and so buoyant, and it just energizes you that you just turn the pages and there's some kind of energy that's carrying you along. And that means you're willing to just hold in abeyance, just put on hold things that you don't understand right away. Well, I don't know about that, but okay, maybe I will understand in the future. Let me keep reading. That's part of the mystery. Whereas others, they just seem to hit a brick wall. What is this? That's it, not reading anymore. So we have to expect that because Bhagavad-gita is a great mystery. And that mystery is giving us a chance to do more service. We want people to understand Krishna, even those who hit the speed bumps, even those who hit the brick wall. We're willing to assist them. We're willing to work with them so that they can cross over any barriers. We're seeing that as an opportunity for service. We just don't say, you didn't get it, tough luck, next life. We see that the potential for misunderstanding gives us a chance to do more service for Krishna, to help them enter into the great mystery. Some people can do it practically on their own. Others need some help. Others need someone to carry them through the pages. Whatever. It's an opportunity for service to Krishna. So we don't consider it a liability that they're going to find things that they don't understand. When I'm presenting Bhagavad-gita, I always say, look, there's going to be a lot in this book that you recognize as familiar, and there's going to be a lot that's kind of exotic for you. Don't worry about it. Just keep turning the pages. When you get to the end, it all comes together like a symphony. And often, especially dealing with Westerners, you have to cope with this tendency. I may have explained it before, called the library angel. You don't know about that. It's particularly a California notion that the way you approach any kind of spiritual book is you just pray to the library angel and then open the book, and whatever page is there, that's what you're meant to read. So in other words, you never read the book from beginning to end. You just rely on the library angel. And okay, yeah, I think I'll look at Bhagavad-gita today. Pick it off your bookshelf. Okay, that's what I'm meant to know for today. And you speculate on it a bit and then close the book. And so if I ask many times to these persons, are you reading Bhagavad-gita? Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Or other times they'll tell me, I read all the boldface type. I read all the big letters. So many times I have to say, look, the way you read Bhagavad-gita, you start from page 1 and you turn the pages all the way till you get to the end. And the persons always respond with like, wow, really? I said, yeah, that's how you do it. Sometimes they even ask me, well, how do you read this book? You open it, you start with page 1. And then, as you turn the pages, the mystery starts to unfold. And you keep turning those pages until you get to the end. And they get enthusiastic. Wow, I never realized that's what you're supposed to do. Of course, dealing with an Indian audience, you have different barriers to cope with that we already know everything about it. My grandmother used to tell me Mahabharata stories. I know Arjuna, I know Karna, I know Bhima. And so, why do I need to read this? Regardless of the various types of conditioned responses, where there is a devotee who is determined to render service to Krishna by helping people understand Bhagavad-gita, you see miracles happen. Whether you're dealing with persons who just dive right in, or you're dealing with persons who are having a rocky time, or you're dealing with persons who can't seem to make any headway in the book at all, the presence of a devotee is what makes the difference. And all these facilities that we have, a major reason why we have such facilities as this beautiful temple is to give people a conducive atmosphere where they can enter into these books and learn how to engineer their lifestyle according to these books. You have the prasad, you have the deities, you have the kirtan. It's all for awarding Shakti in getting people to accept Krishna Upadesh, the instructions of Krishna. For some it happens quicker than others. So it's always interesting to share accounts of your first contact with Bhagavad Gita. It's always very interesting. You see then how the super soul is working. You see how people have different burdens of conditioning. Some are more readily fortunate than others. And some are on the fast train, some are on the slow train. But by trying to help them enter into the mystery of Bhagavad Gita, you develop appreciation for the whole panorama of conditioned souls drifting and coming closer to Krishna. You get to see all that. It's very exciting. Some are immediately ready. Others take a while. Others, maybe 3 lifetimes. But you get to see the whole scenario. Krishna gives you that vision because you're doing his work. For those of us who are trying to be established devotees, we have our work cut out for us in trying to increase our intensity as Krishna's devotee and Krishna's friend. Friend, for us, means not so much our rasa, our original constitutional position, but we are friendly with Krishna's mission. Bhagavad Gita is a very mission-orientated book. Not mission-orientated in terms of missionary, but no, mission in terms of purpose. The more we align ourselves with the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, the more we are friendly with Krishna. Just like in the 7th canto, in the verse describing the classic brahmachari, brahmachari guru kule vasandanto guru hitam. The brahmachari, guru kule, lives at the place of the guru. He controls his senses, vasandanto, guru hitam. He lives there only for the benefit of the guru. And guru sudra sohita. The brahmachari has a friendly attitude with the guru. Now, what does that mean? Does he pat the guru on the back? How are you? We're friends. No, it means he has made the mission of the spiritual master his. That's what friendship means. So similarly, for us to be Krishna's devotee and Krishna's friend means our friendship is embracing the mission of Krishna. We want to understand that. Especially, we have the facility of understanding Krishna by understanding Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I often point out that why is there so much confusion about Krishna in India? Because they're not approaching Krishna through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is being presented accurately, it becomes very easy to understand Krishna. Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Name vidu suragana prabhavamna maharshaya. Very few persons understand me. The great demigods don't understand me. The great rishis don't understand me. First of all, in every case, I'm existing before they even were around. So how are they going to understand me? I'm prior to them. I'm prior to all of them. Yet Arjuna presents himself as understanding Krishna because of parampara. Therefore, as you all know, just to make sure we don't think that Arjuna is proclaiming Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because Krishna is his friend, he cites a whole list of authorities who accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he says, I'm also doing that like these extraordinary authorities. I remember once Srila Prabhupada saying, I wonder how many of my disciples actually accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you may say, oh, he's talking about those Westerners. Yeah, what do they know? We know. But whether you have the kind of Western conditioning in which it's hard for you to accept definitive spiritual knowledge, or whether you have the Indian conditioning that you have some folklore conception of Krishna, the Hindu forest love God. In any case, we always have to search our heart, search our heads. How much am I really accepting this Sri Bhagavan Uvacha? Am I afraid of being unscientific? Am I afraid of being a true believer? Especially when I'm speaking to young people in India these days. I always point out their fear of becoming a true believer. They all laugh. Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want a true believer. We're cool. We're sophisticated. We're 20, 21. We know everything now. How much do we actually pursue Arjuna's position in terms of his attitude, in terms of the way he receives knowledge from Krishna? How Krishna is inspired to teach him. Just listen. Touch Trinu. Hear from me. I'm going to teach you. Maya sakta manaparta yogam yunjan manasya. I'm going to tell you everything. How your consciousness can be attached to me. You'll know everything. You'll be free from doubt. Just listen. So I always point out to Western audiences especially, and to young Indian audiences at colleges in Delhi or Mumbai, Krishna's not saying, just listen, I'm going to give you religious belief. No, he's saying, just listen, I'm going to teach you applied spiritual technology. Oh, they go, applied spiritual technology. Yes, that sounds appropriate for this day and age. In other words, I tell them, Krishna is inviting you to enter the bhakti laboratory. I was about to say laboratory. That's how you pronounce it in other parts of it. Enter the bhakti laboratory. Apply your instruments, and you get realization. You get experience. And what more can you want than that? So I always ask, isn't that fair enough? Especially like in Australia, if I'm speaking there, one of the cultural precepts there is that things should be fair. Everything should be given a fair chance. They call it giving a fair go. So I say, isn't it a fair go? Isn't it fair enough that Krishna says, just enter the bhakti laboratory, apply your senses according to the procedures spoken about in Bhagavad-gita, and you get the results? Isn't that fair enough? Isn't that a fair go? And they always, yeah, that's fair go. Yeah. As Vaisheshika Prabhu knows, that the more you get persons to agree, yes, the more the deal is sealed. So that's all Krishna's asking. Isn't that a fair go? Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. You get them in that agreeing mood. And it's easy to agree with what Krishna's giving. We don't have to fear that we're trying to pull something over them, you know. Krishna is giving you a process to verify his presence. Even when he says, Rasaham apsu konteya, I am the taste and water. How many of you really appreciate the full significance of those statements in the 7th chapter? Prabhasmi shashi suryo, I am the light, the sun and the moon. Sounds very poetic, doesn't it? But Krishna is not simply speaking poetry. He is actually giving you methodology to perceive him. So how can you say you never saw Krishna? How can you say you can't see Krishna? You all drink water, I hope. Not just carbonated beverages, Diet Coke or something. If you drink water and think Krishna's the taste, you're seeing Krishna. If you look at the light of the sun and the moon and say, this is Krishna, you're seeing Krishna. Sometimes because this is so simple sounding, we overlook it. It's poetry. No, it is methodology. You have to begin your quest for love of Krishna somewhere. So Krishna is giving you the beginning ways to perceive him. You can't just dismiss it like, oh, that's just too simple. Krishna's a taste and water. How can that be yoga? How can that be Raja Vidya, the king of all knowledge? But it's the beginning of love. And Krishna is purposely giving you methodology. How to see him and love him. So yes, saying that Krishna is the light of the sun and the moon, that is seeing Krishna. Of course, there are different levels of intensity in seeing Krishna. Still, if you say Krishna is the light of the sun and the moon, as you look at the light of the sun and the moon, you're seeing Krishna. What do you think? Oh, it can't be that easy, right? I can't, right? Come on, say it. Now, there's got to be more to it than that, right? It's got to be more intricate. I remember Srila Prabhupada explaining that if even the drunkard, every time he drinks wine, thinks Krishna's the taste of the water and the wine, one day he'll be Krishna conscious. No, I can't. Where's the Jnana? Where's the Sankhya analysis? Knowledge of Brahman, Paramatma. So yes, when Krishna says he's these things, he's giving you his personal instruction. How to see him. You have to start somewhere. So yes, if someone challenges you, has it ever happened? How many of you have been challenged? Have you seen Krishna? How many? Yes. Without hesitating, say yes. Sometimes Prabhupada would answer, yes, you can see him too. Or, you're not seeing Krishna? You don't see him? It's so obvious. And you're not seeing him? His presence is so obvious? And he would reply like that with surprise. You don't see? And the person would, what do you mean? Yes, everyone can see Krishna. But obviously, there are differing levels of intensity, that's all. Still, even the beginner is seeing Krishna. But obviously the beginner is not seeing Krishna with the same intensity as the Prem Yogi. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochane, Lord Brahma says. I even remember Prabhupada explaining very boldly in a lecture. I might have been in Los Angeles. He quoted the verse, Dharma Varudo Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshava, where Krishna says he is procreation when done according to Dharma. So Prabhupada roared out, "You can see Krishna this way too." All the brahmacharis blushed and but he was making a point. Krishna means what he says. If he says, "I am this, I am that," that means you can see him in that way. So these are just some points about the mystery of Bhagavad-gita. It's the most fascinating mystery. And then just think, after Bhagavad-gita is the postgraduate study of Srimad Bhagavatam. How is it that Sanatana Goswami says every syllable of Srimad Bhagavatam is saturated with Krishna Prem? Isn't that a mystery? Have you ever started reading some of the chapters in Bhagavatam where there's a long list of dynastic lists mentioned? So-and-so had so-and-so as a child, and then so-and-so and so-and-so, right? And you just want to turn the pages real quick, right? And then you get to the end of the chapter, and Shukadeva Goswami says, anyone who reads this history of dynasties will receive such and such spiritual benefit. You turn the pages, okay. How it is that every syllable of Bhagavatam is saturated in Krishna Prem. That takes some realization. Just because you don't see it at first doesn't mean you'll never see it. Children see so many things, but they don't know what actually they're looking at. So we're like spiritual children. Although something is right in front of our eyes, we don't appreciate the significance. I remember when I was an 8-year-old boy, I used to go around asking people a lot of questions. And one of my favorite questions was, when I was 8, I'd go up to couples, young adult couples, and I'd ask, "Why are you together?" Yeah. They would be sitting on the couch holding hands, and why are you holding her hand? Why are you together? And they just look at me and smile. You'll find out. So similarly, in our progressive development in bhakti, there are unlimited things that we'll find out as we grow. And we get reassurance by seeing the signposts along the way. Krishna is always revealing to us how we can make further progress. He does that through the Shastra. He does that through the spiritual master, through the Vaishnavas. One amazing thing about bhakti and its development is you can just look back to what you did the year before and how your consciousness was the year before and just think, I didn't know anything last year. Year after year it goes on like that. What was I thinking last year? How polluted my consciousness was. This is going to go on eternally. There's no other experience like this available in existence. That you can just go on and on and on, becoming more and more attracted to Krishna. All right. Any questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for your talk. Actually, I like the part where you said that even if you assume, hypothetically, that Krishna is what he says in the Bhagavad-gita, that's a start.
Yes.
You know? And
that's being submissive.
Yeah, and still, I can see that when you practice something, even if you assume it is not true in the very beginning, still the effects are true, actually. So the benefits are true. If you follow what Krishna says, the benefits you are getting out are true, actually. They're real.
Definitely. You simply assume that I don't know whether or not Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but I'll accept that premise as I'm turning the pages, and then when I get to the end, I'll see what I think. That's more than enough to get your foot in the door. And that's considered being submissive. It's not that difficult, you see, right? It's not that you have to, okay, before you open the cover, you've got to believe. Do you believe? No. Have some respect. That's all. I'm dealing with something that's beyond my ability to speculate, and I'm dealing with information that is unlike anything I've ever read before. Let me suspend my judgments until the end. That's what I tell people. When you get to the end, then you can let it fly. You can just let your judgments just pour out of you. But in every case I've noticed, when they get to the end, so many persons tell me, I felt so peaceful. I had so many questions, but they all disappeared. They all say that. Because they've associated with Krishna through parampara.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful lecture. My question is, Bhakto Sime Sakha Chetsi. So in that he's saying, first of all, you're my Bhakt and then you're my friend. Out here when we see, we are trying to be devotees, but we are das. So the relationship, does that really matter with Krishna? This question is very basic, but...
What relationship?
So he's at a Sakha level.
But I explain, you can be Krishna's friend by harmonizing with his mission, with his purpose. His purpose is that people actually get accurate information about him. Just like if someone is spreading misunderstandings about you at the workplace. Has ever happened? You work in IT? Finance. So sometimes things get very competitive, right? And someone's envious of you, right? And so they try to spread false information about you. And let's say you have a friend at work who seeks to correct all that. You would appreciate that person, right? Yeah, that's my friend. Has it happened? Yes. Yeah, okay. So that's all Krishna is saying. He's not asking that you have to be in Sakya Rasa, friendship rasa with him. He's saying, help correct the misunderstandings about me. First of all, by correcting your own misunderstandings about me. And then help others to get over their misunderstandings. That's being the friend of Krishna. Okay? Aisheshika Prabhu, yeah.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, my question has to do with becoming more effective in the mission, as this is a mission-critical message that Krishna is giving. And recently I had some conversations with devotees, and they've been ongoing over the years, about how it is that one becomes most effective in conveying the message of Bhagavad-gita to those who are unaware of it. And in one conversation I was having, this respected godbrother was saying that we depend too much on a gyata sukriti, the fact that one way or another they'll just get it because of proximity, because of contact, because of they touch the book or whatever, and we don't pay enough attention to racking our brains at how to make the delivery system more effective to fit the particular person we're talking to. I'm trying to find the meeting point of these two, not losing faith in the agyata sukriti, but not simply depending on that and putting aside the very critical way of trying to understand how to deliver it properly. Can you say anything about that in the next 5 minutes?
I will try. Do you remember when you were a little boy, the TV commercials for Mapo cereal? Do you remember? I do. Okay. Anyone else remember here? No, you don't.
From last life, could be.
This is back in the, I think, maybe 50s or 60s. So Marky Mapo was a 5-year-old guy, and his mother was always trying to serve him this hot breakfast cereal. And so she would start out with the Mapo on the spoon. Okay, Marky, here it comes, loaded with deliciousness, loaded with nutrition. Then she would stick the spoon in his mouth, and he would slam his mouth shut. Again, his mother would say, okay, Marky, here it comes. So wonderful, so sweet, so fantastic. Mapo. He would slam his mouth shut. So the mother was always trying to get the Mapo in his mouth. And finally, of course, it's a 30-second ad. You know, she figures out a way. Sometimes she goes like this. She takes the spoon around her head. Here it comes, Marky. Full of value, full of vitamins. Mapo! And finally she gets it in there. He opens his mouth. So, I remember on a walk in Chicago, Prabhupada was asked a question. If you approach someone with knowledge of Krishna and they don't accept it, whose fault is it? And Srila Prabhupada explained that as long as you don't make them angry, it's always their fault. But then he added, although it's always their fault, because you're a devotee, you want to become more and more expert at getting them to take what you're offering. And he even said, they are snakes, but you need to become an expert snake charmer. So I thought that was the essence of a balanced approach. If you walk up to someone and say, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they don't accept, you're right, and they're wrong. But there's unlimited room for developing your technique, just like Marky Mapo's mother. Round the head and with the spoon. And so out of compassion, you're developing your technique, even though you're right. Who is it? Our godbrother Lochan. He was a very simple devotee. He would just go out on sankirtan in Oregon in the early 70s, and he would just, wearing a dhoti and everything, and have a Bhagavad-gita in his hand and just approach people and open up Bhagavad-gita and read a verse. So he approached one person, one student at Reed College in Oregon, and the student came up and he just opened the book and read, Sarvadhanman Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. And he finished the verse, and then he didn't see the student anymore. The student had collapsed on the ground. just by hearing that Sanskrit. And then the student picked himself up, bought the book, and ran 3 miles back to his dormitory room to read the book. So, we wouldn't say that's the best sankirtan technique, would we? Yet, Lochan was not wrong. He was right. But obviously, as we develop our attachment for Lord Chaitanya, we develop better and better methods. But still, we have to recognize that even when a child approaches someone and just says, "Do you know who Krishna is? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead." That's powerful preaching. But you can always grow in your expertise. And you want to do that because of wanting to please Krishna. So I always remember that statement by Prabhupada. They are always wrong and you're always right. But even though they're snakes, you should become an expert snake charmer. I thought that was the epitome of the balanced approach. What do you think?
Thank you, that really helps. I have to learn how to charm.
Yes.
Okay. Maharaj, if someone says that Bhagavad-gita is just a basic and it doesn't contain all the information, what would be?
Doesn't what?
Doesn't contain all the information, or why do you need Bhagavatam to read further when Bhagavad-gita is...
Bhagavatam takes all the themes of Bhagavad Gita and expands upon them. When you want to love someone, you want to know as much as possible about that person. And Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya has instructed, before you are liberated, read Srimad Bhagavatam, and after you are liberated, go on reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So which category are you in? Before liberated, after liberated? In any case, read Srimad Bhagavatam.
We welcome His Holiness Devamrita Swami back to ISV. When I was recently at the Temple President GBC meetings in Dallas, I was with Kalakanta Prabhu, who had just been to visit Maharaj in New Zealand. And although Kalakanta is one of the most accomplished preachers in America, he goes all the way to New Zealand to learn from Maharaj. And when I asked him where he was, where he had been, he said, "I went to see the Master." And so we feel very fortunate that you come here, that you consider this part of your orbit, and even an evening with you every once in a while, a couple times, 2-3 times a year, sustains us, just seeing you and hearing the vibration. So please give a warm welcome back to ISKCON. Please come again and again. Thank you. And now we're going to have an artik ceremony, so we'll put away all the asanas, and it's a time to dance. We can dance before Krishna. Haribol.